Ladies and gentlemen, imagine a vehicle so strange that even your local mechanic would stare at it, scratch his head, and say, "Is this a truck, or did a train lose a wheel?" and keep going. That's exactly the vibe of the 1933 Diamond T Doodlebug. I believe this machine wasn't just built, it was improvised, engineered in a time when budgets were tight, ideas were wild, and practicality always won the argument. Before we roll deeper into this rolling paradox, go ahead and subscribe to the channel, because here at Truck Titans, we celebrate machines that didn't just exist, they survived, adapted, and occasionally confused entire generations of drivers. Now let's travel back to 1933, right in the middle of the Great Depression. The United States wasn't exactly throwing money around, and industries had to get creative just to stay alive. Diamond T Motor Car Company, founded in Chicago back in 1905, had already built a solid reputation for durable premium trucks. But this wasn't the time for luxury, it was the time for solutions, and that's where the Doodlebug came in. This wasn't a factory-line model you could just order with extra chrome and a smile. No, this was a custom-built hybrid, often assembled for railway companies, municipalities, or industrial operators. The idea was simple. Take a reliable truck and make it capable of driving on railway track. I think what I liked the most is how brutally logical that sounds. No unnecessary elegance, just pure function. Production numbers are unclear because these machines were often built in small workshops or modified individually. Estimates suggest fewer than a dozen survive today, hiding in museums or private collections like rare mechanical fossils. Back then they were used by railway inspectors, maintenance crews, and workers who needed to travel long distances on tracks without dragging a full locomotive behind them. Even my friend Timmy once said, "If I had that, I'd finally be on time for something," which is ironic because Timmy is late to everything, including his own excuses. Technically, the Doodlebug was based on a conventional Diamond T truck chassis, usually powered by an inline-six gasoline engine, with a displacement between 3 and 4 liters, or roughly 213 to 275 cubic inches. Output ranged from about 70 to 100 horsepower. That's around 52 to 75 kilowatts. Not exactly a rocket, but I think it wasn't trying to impress, it was trying to work. The engine sat up front in a classic longitudinal layout, sending power to the rear wheels through a manual 4-speed transmission. But here's where things get interesting. The vehicle could run on steel railway wheels. Some versions had fixed flanged wheels, while others used retractable systems to switch between road and rail. My neighbor Bob once claimed this kind of system was invented by aliens to monitor human logistics. I told him, "Bob, the only thing monitoring you is your electricity bill." Suspension relied on heavy-duty leaf springs, both front and rear, built to handle rough terrain and uneven rails. Braking was handled by mechanical drum brakes, which, let's be honest, required a strong leg and a bit of faith. Dimensions varied, but most units stretched between 16 and 20 feet long. That's about 5 to 6 meters, with weight ranging from 5,000 to 8,000 pounds, or 2,268 to 3,629 kilograms. On the road, it could reach around 45 to 55 miles per hour, or 72 to 88 kilometers per h. On rails, speeds drop to about 25 to 40 miles per hour, which honestly gives you plenty of time to think about your life choices, and your route fuel consumption wasn't exactly friendly either, but during that era, efficiency meant survival, not perfection. And what truly defined this machine was versatility. It could be repaired using standard truck parts, which made it incredibly valuable in remote areas. Unlike specialized rail cars, it didn't need special treatment, just tools, patience, and maybe a guy like Timmy, although giving Timmy tools is always a risky investment. When we talk about the design philosophy of the 1933 Diamond T Doodlebug, we are really looking at a machine built without ego. There was no stylist sitting with sketches trying to impress anyone. Every panel, every bolt, every awkward angle existed for one reason: function. The body followed the structure of a conventional truck, often with a simple cab and an extended utility rear, but adapted to accommodate rail gear. I believe this is where its charm comes from. It doesn't try to look good, yet somehow it becomes unforgettable, like that one neighbor who never smiles but always fixes everything. The dual-purpose nature shaped everything. Ground clearance had to balance road usability with rail alignment. Access points were positioned for quick maintenance. Cab visibility was prioritized because railway inspection demanded constant awareness. There's a kind of honesty here that modern machines sometimes lack. Bob once told me this vehicle looks like it was assembled during a power outage. I told him, Bob, during the 1930s the whole economy was the power outage. Compared to other vehicles of the era, the Doodlebug didn't really have direct competitors in the traditional sense. Standard railcars were larger, heavier, and more expensive to operate. Regular trucks couldn't operate on rails at all. So this machine lived in its own category, a niche solution for a very specific problem. I think what I liked the most is how it quietly outperformed expectations without ever being advertised as revolutionary. Market-wise, it was never about mass adoption. It served industries rather than individuals, while passenger cars were chasing comfort and style, and trucks were focused on hauling goods. The Doodlebug was solving logistics problems in remote and challenging environments. It became part of the invisible backbone of infrastructure, never famous but always essential. Even Timmy once said, "If I had one, I'd start my own railway company," which explains why he's still banned from borrowing tools in our neighborhood. There are also stories, some confirmed, some half-legend, about these machines operating in extreme condition. One account mentions a unit handling winter inspections on snow-covered tracks where heavier equipment struggled. Another describes operators praising its reliability over long distances with minimal maintenance. These aren't glamorous stories, but they are the kind that build reputation over time. And before we talk about numbers, I think we have to give this machine respect. It wasn't designed to be loved yet. Today it's admired. It wasn't built for collectors yet. Now it's collected. That's the kind of legacy you can't manufacture now. Let's talk about price. Back in the early 1930s, a base diamond T-truck cost between $1,500 and $2,500, which today translates roughly to $30,000 $50,000 USD, or about 28,000 euros, 46,000 euros. The rail conversion added extra cost depending on complexity. Today, surviving examples are incredibly rare. So yes, this odd machine half-truck, half-train has quietly become a collector's pride. And my advice for today: if life ever puts you on the wrong track, just make sure your vehicle can drive on. Both